So, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? Today is the sequel of the mega expandable gathering series here today. And joining us today is my main man, Mr. Dhilip Kumar, who's also going to be joining our gang today. And namaste. And as you know, we have Eve of Astrology here, Michael Reed, Dr. Pi, the Pi Man, and Ryan. How are you guys?
Excellent.
So, as we discussed last week, we were going to talk about D12 chart, the Dwara Damsa chart. And before that, I thought, why not just take a little bit of a time? Each panelist will talk about a nakshatra that they like or love reading about or love knowing about. And from that, we're going to move on to the D12 chart. So since we say ladies first, we will have...
Oh, goodness.
take over to talk
Okay.
about her favorite nakshatra and why it's her favorite.
Okay. Didn't know I'd be first.
Yeah.
All right. So I really thought about it because it's very hard to say, oh, I have a favorite nakshatra.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not really what this is. And I thought about the new moon today with Shravana. So I considered that. But, honestly, I ended up in the end wanting to really talk a little bit about Vishaka.
Okay.
Just a little bit, because I'll be going into more of that with Dr. Arjun Paiji soon.
Okay.
But Vishaka finds itself in a really interesting position in this lifetime. People with prominent Vishaka, I find that most of my clients with Vishaka are some of my funnest clients. They have such an intensity about them. And this is where many dual qualities come in. And if you think about the lightning bolt, and you think about the intense clash of energy that happens with the lightning bolt, this is really what is going on in this nakshatra. So you have this transformational, large appetite for life, these people that are capable of great achievement, but it's also the split. It's the split, it's the split tree, the tree going two different ways, right? Mm-hmm. So these people succeed by really harnessing their energy and pushing it in one direction. And I think that's a real key for this nakshatra, because it can have an insatiable appetite. It's the Vyapana Shakti, which is, the power of achievement or manifestation. So you'll see many award-winning people that have prominent placements in this nakshatra, people who win awards, people who rise to the top of their profession, all of those things. But you'll also see many people who deeply struggle and deeply struggle with finding a balance. And it's because of the position of this nakshatra. If you look at just a nakshatra wheel, you don't have to look at the signs. Mm-hmm. It's the 25th nakshatra from Mool nakshatra. And the placement of all nakshatras from Mool nakshatra actually is very important. And that 25th nakshatra is difficult. It's a difficult place. So there's a great willpower to transform. And I find that out of all the nakshatras, this is the one that this one in Purva Bhadrapada, you'll read a lot of very frightening things about. If you have this nakshatra, you'll read that and it is moody. It's very moody. It's got an unpredictable side. It gets bored with things. It'll push itself harder than any other nakshatra. It's got this perfectionist streak in it, where that other people can't understand. And if you also look at the nakshatras, and you see it's Karma nakshatra, which is the 10th nakshatra from it, mm-hmm. You'll see Purva Bhadrapada, right? Because the 10th, 19th, all the ones that equal 9, if you add the digits, they're all going to relate to that karma and the purpose of birth. And they're all the Jupiter nakshatras. And if you look at Mool nakshatra and you see, counting from Mool nakshatra, if you look at the Jupiter nakshatras, you'll see why they're so difficult. They all land in 7s. They all land in the 7th position if you add the digits. They all land in sevens. They're all difficult.
Isn't the seven denotes to more of like a spiritual number? I don't know if you're using numerology as well with this concept, but
well, nakshatras are extremely numerical. If you look at just the wheel and you start counting, you'll see a lot of synchronicity with the number 9. First of all, the number 9, and think of the moon. The moon's yantra. It has a lot to do with the number 9. So there's a lot with this. It's not just numerology. It is nature. Everything happens. The measurement of everything, the cycle of everything has to do with numbers. And so these Jupiter nakshatras are all sevens in 7th placement, 7, 16, and 25 from Mul nakshatra, the galactic center. Okay, so this is, and Mul, as we know, and that's one of the other ones I was thinking about choosing, because we have Shani. You know,
you can talk about it. The Mula Nakshatra. What would you?
Well, I wanted to more or less focus on Vishaka a little bit. I want to give everyone time, because I know there's so many profound things.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard from Dhilip Kumarji. I'm so excited. I'm just now introduced to you.
Next, man. I'm gonna pick on you, man. So what I want to know is, what is one unique trend you saw with people with the prominent planets in Vishaka Nakshatra? Something that you observed through your own.
A rapid cycle of indulgence, restriction, like this. You know, they don't. The split tree is a really good example for them, because they're either out on one limb or they're out on another. And intensity. I would use the word intensity almost every time I meet them. They're very dynamic. They're magnetic people. They can be very intense. Like I've often talked to Vishaka people, because, you know, the Purushartha is dharma. And there's something about them that's almost like a public defender. Like, don't get in an argument with them. You know?
So pretty much they're very eccentric. Like, one minute they're this way, the other minute that they're that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's not so. Purva Bhadrapada, you'll find this trait too. The Jupiter nakshatras, you'll find this kind of trying to find ground in some way. You'll find that, because Jupiter is so geared towards inspiration and philosophical endeavors, but he's not always the one that roots us. So these people are very, you know, idealistic. There's this big explosion happening with them. They really want to achieve. You know, which comes in the following nakshatra, Anuradha, which is oddly enough the Sampat nakshatra, or the wealth-giving nakshatra for Vishaka. You know, this is where they find through devotion. You know, this is through devotion to one path, setting their mind on a goal. This is where, if they apply that force, they literally become award-winning people. They make breakthroughs in their field.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So
now off to my main man, Mr. E.K. Dhilip Kumar. Namaste. So let's talk about your nakshatras, and what nakshatra have you chosen to talk about?
Actually, I wanted to speak on all the 3 nakshatras at one shot.
Sure.
I've been fascinated by the Saturn's trinal stars. Pushya, the 8th nakshatra, and the 17th nakshatra, Anuradha, and Uttarabhadra, which is the 26th nakshatra. Like astrologer E was also referring to the numbers. I also feel that there is a lot to do with numbers, but not in all cases. Certain stars have a very strong connection with the numbers, and I've been regularly, you know, coming across this number. The Saturn's 3 stars always, you know, something to do with the actual numerology, you know, angle also, like 8, 17 and 26 add up to 8, even from that point of view. And I think the nakshatra numbers and numerology always tallies with Saturn alone more than any other, you know, with regard to any other nakshatra. For example, let's say Ashwini or Maka or Mula, the star numbers are 1, 10 and 19. Which adds up to 1. But I think Ashwini has got nothing to do with 1. So also Bharani, I think, you know, the next nakshatra, Venus nakshatra, 2, 11 and 20. That adds up to 2, but in numerology, Venus is not connected to 2. So we have this kind of differences, but in case of Saturn, there is no difference at all. Because the 8th nakshatra, the 17th nakshatra, and the 26th nakshatra belongs to Saturn, and the English book of numerology also says 8, 17, and 26 is ruled by Saturn.
Yeah.
So I've always found these 3 star people have certain kind of basic qualities in tune with the nature of Saturn, because Saturn is a disciplinarian. So you find these 3 star people having discipline. But I was hearing Eve speak on a particular star, or I'm sure all of you are going to have to say something about a star. But I used to always think that a star could, like a coin, it might have 2 sides of the same quality. So when you say a particular quality is associated with this nakshatra, and for some reason that zone gets afflicted by planets, then it shows the other side. Like for example, if you say Mars is very favorably placed and strong, it could make a person a policeman. But if it's afflicted, it might make the same person a thief. Because Mars still has that guts in them. There's the warrior nature in them. So the common trait alone is picked up, but for what it's being used might change in accordance to something else that happens in the horoscope. So we can describe a nakshatra at least to know what is a coin in the first place.
Right.
Then talk about what is the flip side. So if you say these Saturn star people, they're basically very industrious by nature. So I'll just take the positive side first. Okay. And you always find that till the age of 33, they all have lots of struggle. And it's like a phase change after 33. Once you cross 33, the whole thing dramatically changes. I've always noticed that. And
why 33?
I don't know exactly, but the book says so. And okay. Yeah, so the book says that, and I've been always seeing this. I've been documenting all the the horoscopes that I've studied. I've read from the year 1995 onwards. So whenever I get some, I want to do some research, I flip through all whatever I have. I keep taking notes during consultation, so I go back and I find that all of them have a particular trait, common trait at least. So you find that they're very good with basically in terms of hard work. I think they're focused also. And especially if you take the first nakshatra of the series, you will get to know more of the nakshatra itself. So if you know, Pushya is symbolized by the arrow. And the arrow always, you look at a target. So there's a target, and the deity for Pushya is actually Guru. So you find they're self-taught, they have discipline, they have good habits. In India, because I'm in Chennai, when it comes to the ladies born in this nakshatra, I used to find that they're regularly going to the temples. And a very prominent thing that I noticed, maybe I don't know, the rest of the world, I don't know how to put this, use this information. They have a big, the bindi, slightly larger than normal. So whenever I see a big one, I ask, are you a Pushya nakshatra? And they'll say sometimes, yes, I am.
Wow.
And, those kind of things. Or they look a little, plumpy also. So okay. Maybe something to do with the watery, all these nakshatras are in water signs. And, maybe that's the quality of Jupiter also to gather weight and expand. And so they're very, jovial in nature also. But when it comes to work, they're very strict. So I always found these people having 2 types of lives. In the evenings, they get to, make a lot of jokes. But in the morning from 9:30 onwards, if you call them, they will not make any jokes. they'll be very serious with the job and can't believe that, yesterday this person was in such a joyful manner and not worried about work, but now in the morning it's totally different. So they have this strict timings, 9 to whatever they're working. They're very strict with their timing. So this is the thing I've been noticing. There is some differences between Anuradha and Uttarabhadra also, but Pushya exhibits the maximum, the best of the qualities of Saturn stars.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, my main man, Michael Reed.
Well, I always have a hard time picking a favorite nakshatra because it's going to vary from week to week, in terms of which one's my favorite. But I think one that I tend to come back to over and over again is Shravana. And it's a nakshatra that I really appreciate the symbolism of. And just as each nakshatra really kind of teaches us a lesson, even if we don't have a planet placed in that chart, we can tune in to when the moon is transiting that particular nakshatra, or when any planet's transiting that particular nakshatra, for instance. But the lesson that's connected with Shravana, I really feel, is about how to cope with life. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because the animal that's connected with Shravana is a female monkey, right?
Right.
And I really find with the animals that are connected to each of the nakshatras that you're looking at how that particular nakshatra is going to react when there's stress introduced to it, right? And so with the monkey, how do we tend to react? We tend to develop the monkey mind. We kind of go this way, that way, the other way. We think like, 2,500 different things at once. But when we're doing that, what's the one thing that we're not doing? We're not listening, right? And it's interesting to me that this particular nakshatra is connected to Vishnu as well, because Vishnu really teaches us that, underneath every form, there's something very subtle that's going on. And we can either choose to look at the surface of what's happening and get caught up in the external appearances, let's say, for instance, finances aren't going so well. My life really, sucks because finances aren't going so well. I'm freaking out about that, right? Or, I'm not happy because of this, that, or the other thing. But even underneath those simple everyday occurrences, there's something that's going on. There's a reason that that's not happening. There's something that's blocking the individual from connecting, to their true essence, to that aspect of Vishnu that's within them. And so I really find it's with Shravana Nakshatra in general that we learn, kind of borrowing something from Buddhism, which is the Noble Eightfold Path, which is right view, right aspiration, and from those comes right speech, right action, and it is an Artha Nakshatra, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. But the root of that comes from right view. And in order to have the right view, you have to have right understanding. And if you're not listening, right, if you're instead, just looking, and that's the monkey mind. The monkey mind wants to look everywhere, right? It wants to look everywhere for an answer when the answer is really probably right there in front of it, right? And we all know the story of Vamana, who, in 3 steps covered the earth, the ethers, and the heavens. And it's interesting to me with Shravana Nakshatra that it's the nakshatra that is sattvic at foundation, rajasic, and tamasic. And on a certain level, that's the 3 worlds. Sattvic is the heavens. Rajasic is the ethers, and tamasic, is here on the earth. And you'll find with each of the nakshatras that is a blend of those 3 gunas, that there's a tremendous amount of turmoil going on within the individual, right? That they're having a hard time sorting through, having a hard time figuring out. Find with Shravana people that they're, if the moon is posited well, they're good listeners, right? But we think of the nature of the moon too. The moon is known as a creeping planet, right? So it'll fleet from one thing to another. So if that moon is influenced by a bunch of Rajasic qualities, it's going to be jumping from one thing to the next and not seeing anything clearly. If it's got a lot of Sattvic influences, it's going to really be tuning in, right? If it's a dark moon, well, there might be some issues with it. But it's interesting. I was thinking about all the particular nakshatras and the directions that are connected with each of the nakshatras. And Shravana is a north nakshatra. And with the north nakshatras, you find that it's always about direction. Which direction does one turn to? And they always point to direction. Correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. I think Swati might be another north-facing nakshatra. Does anybody know off the top of their head?
No, I don't.
Is it?
You're saying upward-looking star.
North.
Direction.
Yeah.
North. Yeah. And you'll find with those, it's like it always. What does the compass do? It always points, north, right?
It's funny because I just sent Dr. Arjun Pai, because when I do the reading and I get replies from people, so I'm like trying some of his new techniques that he taught me. And one of the things that I applied was actually something I learned from you when you came on my channel and you were reading somebody's chart where they had a nakshatra in Saravan and they loved listening to police radio, police things.
Yes, right.
So I saw this person with Saturn in Saravan nakshatra. And I asked this lady, does your partner loved listening to police radio and, any kind of like investigative thing? So then she's like, and I sent it to Dr. Pai. He's like, yes, he loves listening to like watching CSI, police shows, Law and Order. He wants to see the show Cops. He wants to know what's going on in other people's life in a bad way. So
Leave it to Saturn.
And I'm
pull
just
everyone into the darkness.
Quality of Saturn with this nakshatra, and I just remembered that. I remember he came on my channel, Michael Reed, and I was like, it just, my brain just, quickly calculated. And I'm like, I'm just saying that. And it was so true.
Well, it's interesting because that particular person, and the reason I said that about that person is they also had something else in Jyeshta nakshatra. And Jyeshta people tend to be really interested in private eyes, investigators, military related things along those lines. And so, exactly. So it was a blend of those things, Shravana and that, so they liked listening to that.
I see.
Yeah.
Mr. Michael.
Yes.
With regard to Shravana, the word Shravana means ears.
To the ears, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually found, since I started by telling, the flip side of the same nakshatra, I've actually consulted for many people born in Shravana having problems with the hearing.
Huh.
I've actually, at least have 4 or 5 people, always they come to me with the hearing aid on. So I found that it's just also the other side. So they can't hear properly. That's also there. So I think for every star, there is usually the flip side.
Can I ask you a question? Can you check in with some of these people and see how many of these people, when the moon is afflicted, are super sensitive to sound? Like they can't focus if there's a lot of sound going on in the room.
Yeah, yes.
Because I noticed Shravana is very sensitive nakshatra.
And they can have migraines too with Saravana, because the sound for somebody who has, migraines, even a little pin drop will get them. So that sensitivity will come.
Yeah. But they make good counselors because they listen.
Absolutely.
They listen to other people.
Michael, may I add, this is beautiful because Shravana, I was thinking about earlier, it's our new moon today here. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about the quality also of, its connection with educational facilities and all of those places of higher learning and the sharing of knowledge as well. And I've noticed, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but if there's a graha or a planet in poor dignity or an afflicted planet, the person may be possessive with knowledge, or there may be some, I've seen this, related back to the story of Mahabali and how, he was not a bad king, but the the will to take over the worlds, where does that come from?
Well,
So he had to be reminded, and then Lord Vishnu puts everything back in its place, gives everything back to its rightful owner, right?
It's
so there's
interesting.
something with this nakshatra in that.
I was thinking of a different aspect of that when you mentioned it, rather than that particular story, but that makes complete sense too. But something I've noticed with afflicted planets in Shravana too is these people are always concerned about what other people are saying about them.
Yes,
And that's the angle I was going to
100%.
come from, is they become possessive of knowledge because they're afraid if they say something, they're going to be judged for what they're saying.
Oh my God, that's so prominent.
Yeah, even I'm with you.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, what about you?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite nakshatras has always been Ardra for a couple of different reasons. Number one, its relationship with Rahu is pretty telling within the chart. But the thing that kind of got me started on thinking more about Ardra was the fact that I know that nakshatras are related to the moon. But whenever we get the sun in Ardra, the earth, or where we are, is going to be closer to Mula Nakshatra, which is closer to the galactic center. And I always found that to be kind of fascinating because in some ideas, when we think about yugas and the solar system getting closer to the galactic center, we get more clarity within our consciousness. And so I always found it fascinating that when we get the moon, or not the moon, the sun in Ardra, the earth is going to be closer to Mula. And even though it's a Rahu-based nakshatra, it can give us a little bit more clarity within our consciousness. So like that time of year is always really a good thing to pay attention to. But following up with that, the reason I like with Ardra is that since it is a Rahu-ruled nakshatra, it does deal a lot with self-development, and it does also deal a lot with personal effort. So when I've seen people with, say, the moon in Ardra Nakshatra, or maybe their ascendant or ascendant lord in Ardra Nakshatra, it's almost like a make or break kind of a position, because either they're going to have the capacity to undertake all the self-effort to achieve their goals and figure out what they're meant to be doing here, or they might go the other way and not have any clarity or not have any sense, and then end up kind of destroying things in a difficult fashion. So, I'm looking at Ardra people. I always pay attention to the dignity of Rahu to see how are they going to pull it together, and if they're going to pull it together. And if there are some problems with Rahu within the chart, or the dignity is not so good, I like to encourage people to spend some time thinking about their goals, thinking about what they'd really love to achieve, and try to work with someone who's already been successful in those areas so that they can experience more growth within their life versus, say, that destructive factor of Rudra coming in and howling and making a mess of everything. So, and with Ardra, aside from just the moon and the ascendant lord and so on, I've also found that when you get a cusp or a house lord in that nakshatra, that area of life is going to be one of their important focuses of what they might not have dealt with in past lifetimes, but now they're meant to learn to deal with. So if it's the second lord, how to manage their finances well, how to take care of the resources well. The 10th lord, how to manage career well. And so there's going to have to be a lot more effort put towards it.
So did you realize, like, if let's say somebody had prominent planets in the second house in Aradhana Nakshatra, like they just have a hard time either saving money, or they get money, they just spend it, and they're like, oh my God, what happened to my money? That's the chaoticness of the nakshatra.
Exactly. And that's going to be more so if, say, that planet is in difficult dignity or afflicted, or if Rahu is not in good dignity. Because on the other hand, what I find is that if it is good, then they just struggle so much with it that they actually become a master of it. So they might struggle earlier in life.
Oh, right.
Right. But then they actually figure out how it's supposed to be done, and that's sort of the energy of Rahu is, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I need to figure it out.
Have you ever noticed anything with like Aradhana and like suicides or like self-destructiveness?
Self-destructiveness, sure. I've never really had too many clients that had suicidal tendencies or anything, but when it comes to self-destructiveness, certainly, and that's really going to come about because they don't know what to do, though. So it's not like they don't seem to be consciously self-destructive. They seem to be destructive based on, say, what the house lord is in that area of life, just because they don't seem to have any clue of what's the right action to take to be successful there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can we say that they are more confused?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. And that's sort of the thing with Rahu that I found, the Rahu-based nakshatras, is that they really give this capacity for great growth, or there's going to be a real mess there. So anytime I see any planet in a Rahu-based nakshatra, I pay a lot of attention to that planet and try to encourage them to learn about that planet, to learn about that area of life, to read about how to be successful with it. Because if they just go based on their own instincts or based on what they think is appropriate, typically it doesn't work out so well. It's like me trying to bake a cake when I've never baked a cake before, you know.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. So get the recipe. That's what I say with Rahu-based nakshatras.
Also, did you ever notice a pattern of Aradhra and IT professionals?
IT professionals. That's interesting. I cannot say I have. Is that something that you've seen come up quite a bit?
A lot.
Yeah, in it too. Yeah.
Okay.
Like literally, I'm going to tell you like 90% Aradhra Nakshatra, IT, information technology, because it's an electric storm.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So now if you convert it, it's like a new age electric storm, which is the internet. So they're
Did you notice? Did you notice there's when Mercury's retrograde with Rahu? Have any of you ever noticed what happens? I always tell people to back up your computer.
Exactly. Oh,
I mean, things it goes crazy. One of the only times I honestly pay attention to Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
Because it happens so much, you know. And but that time period, and if you think of the qualities of a Rudra already being connected to Rudra, you know, it's intense.
Maybe we can say that Ardra is right in the middle of Mercury's sign. And Mercury rules the communications and the modern, all the computers and all electronic stuffs. So when something gets right into the middle of the sign, it takes the maximum qualities of those.
Absolutely. That is now that you just said that, now every nakshatra clicks to me. Especially like Sat, Vishak and Swati. Like Swati, very independent business. Yeah. Becomes very important to them. Like Sat, Vishak, for them, either technology, science, aerospace, or alternative healing becomes extremely important for them.
Research.
Wow, that's fascinating. So I know Dr. Pai wanted to go in the end. So for me, specifically, my interest has always been and fascination with the Magha Nakshatra. And the one thing that I noticed with Magha Nakshatra people is that no matter what circumstances they're in, you know, whenever people, like you see those like rag to riches story, like people in any prominent planet in Magha, they always feel like, I don't belong here at this level. Whether they're working in a factory, whether they could be working in a liquor store as a cashier. Back in their mind, they're not, I don't belong here, I don't belong here, I don't belong here, I need to do something big. And the reason
is it because they think that
they feel that naturally I am born to be on a throne.
Yeah,
I need to be on top of something. What am I doing here? Something is not right with me. So they don't even realize why they're thinking this way. If they don't know anything about Vedic astrology, they're like, why am I thinking? Because all the people who email me, and whenever I do a consultation and they write their paragraph, look, this is what it's like. I don't belong here. What is going on? Every time I notice that either the ascendant nakshatra, moon nakshatra, or majority of planets were sitting in the Aradhana nakshatra, it really showed that like they feel like they belong on somewhere much higher, on a throne. Like I deserve to be on that CEO. Why am I working underneath that CEO? I should be on that top of that CEO. So that's one of the things I noticed. And then especially you'll notice that with Magha Nakshatra people, they personally, even if they are working in a department store, they love to get chairs which are high up above their head. Like like an executive chair, like a king's throne that they used to sit in. Right. They love to just go do that and work in their own private office, having the high chair because they feel they're on a throne. And especially for these people, they don't even realize subconsciously that they always end up then finding their success in something related to what their family lineage was doing. So if let's say this person is an engineer and they know they don't belong here, and then the entire family has been in fields of real estate. Finally, they'll realize, wow, why didn't I think of this? I can just do real estate. And they go there and they succeeds. Or if, let's say, somebody is a scientist, but then family is of astrologers, they're like, well, I wasn't interested in it, but let me just pick up. And then they pick up everything that resonates. And they're like, wow, I'm like fascinated with it. So they always pick up something, because obviously Ketu and the Diti of Maga is Pitris, and Ketu represents the past. So they always have to connect with the past in order to go towards the future. And especially with these people, number one, their favorite color is red, like the royal red, gold. And naturally, they always feel like they will find success once they are appreciated by the masses. When they're appreciated by the masses, that's when like, okay, I'm successful. Why? Because of the fact king is on top, everybody's at the bottom. And so they need to feel like, okay, I need to get that fame. So Maga and fame also becomes very strong with these people. They naturally gravitate towards that. Whatever the action they do, they might be cleaning toilets, but their company that cleans toilets becomes really famous. So these are the things that I've noticed with the Maga.
Kapiel, I have something to share with you which may help you to understand that particular concept.
Yeah.
Since Maga is the first of the Tamasic Nakshatras, if you look at Ashwini as being the first Nakshatra, it's the primal spark. When we get to Maga, the soul is becoming encased in its material sheaths a lot more deeply, right? So it has that memory of having been connected to the source, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it recognizes that it's here in a body. So of course it's going, I'm above this. Why the hell am I here?
And it's a Rajas, Tamas, or Tamas, Rajas, Nakshatra.
Yes.
So especially there's too much Rajasic quality. Like I need to enjoy the life to the fullest and being in a leadership position. I don't know.
Kapiel, you are so
trying to
right
get
with
even.
this. I've seen so many people in especially like the administrative portion of the film industry, like directors, the people who, really, really push things and give it direction, and also government. You'll see like Shani and Maga could put someone in the service of those people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very,
So especially like malefic planets, will have more tamasic quality, that they'll do whatever it takes to find that, their throne. With more of Rajasic planets.
And then there's that connection with death.
Yeah.
With Maga, that connection with the other side.
Yeah, I remember Michael will also saying there one leg is in the life, one leg is in the astral.
For sure. No, absolutely.
Doesn't that, have you also noticed, though, that they also tend to be a little bit high-strung and anxious, because it's got that idea of leaving the body. Yeah. And if you always have this idea of leaving the body, it's like you don't necessarily want to be where you are. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there's a strong inclination towards leaving some legacy. Like, I need to do something where, I can be remembered. Because that tale of past of Ketu is so prominent. They're like, I need to leave something for the past when I'm gone. So these are one of the things. So I don't know if you guys have any other addition to this nakshatra, but that's.
Well, there's a strong link with Bharani nakshatra.
Yes, most definitely.
There's a strong link with Bharani nakshatras, and the agendas that go on in Bharani reflect in Maga, and both are very authoritative signs.
Yeah. Why is that? Why is the link between Maga?
Yamaraj.
Okay.
They're both death related, so Maga gives the power to leave the body, and
Bharani takes it away.
It takes it away, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you think about these people, they feel like they've been kind of kicked out of heaven, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what did I do to come here, man? Come on.
So they're pissed. They want to get even,
Exactly.
Well, they also, I think there's something kind of beautiful in Maga too, where these people do want the responsibility.
Yeah.
They do want it. It's not only authority, but they're willing to go into responsibility. That's a very beautiful side of this nakshatra. They're very good at they're very good at giving a direction to things. Once they're in their throne, they find their place. And they're also very good on somehow almost that kind of intuition that it's not really a feeling, it's just a knowing.
It's like I was telling you, like if they're in a liquor store, like, no, I don't belong there. I belong somewhere here.
And they just know it.
And they just know, and they always try to go after it, regardless of what they're doing. They're always doing something on the side to just find their throne, their place. It's like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. Even though he was exiled,
he's very Barney.
He just kind of knew I am a king, but I'm just kind of lost right now.
Exactly.
I need Frodo to come and help me here.
Right.
So, Dr. Pai, you got something unique for us other than just nakshatras. So, what do you got for us?
Kapiel, I said, let me do something different, because when you said pick a nakshatra that you love to talk about, I love all those nakshatras there. So, so I cannot be, it was a tough choice for me to make. And just to add on to Maga, and what Eve had said, I've seen this many a times, that Maga people are quite royal, right? And usually they do not take instructions from anybody. They cannot be subservient to anybody, except there is an exception, and that is Bharani. So usually you feel, you kind of see that Maga natives would be kind of subservience to a Bharani boss or a Bharani manager or a Bharani, but he doesn't take instructions from anybody else. He doesn't like to take instructions because he's royal. So this is the only connection that I've seen, because Maga is about Pitris and your forefathers and your ancestral spirits, and then you see that it is Bharani native could actually help them move forward in their life. So what I'm going to do now is, I said, what happened, this is my research which I did about a year and a half ago, and everybody would love this research, because whenever you bump into people and you don't know much about astrology, but if you know basics of nakshatras, very basics, as in animal totems or animal symbols, then you can actually become a star within a gathering. So it might be over a table that you want to, and you're discussing something, you can just say, okay, what nakshatra is you? And then you could probably give them some stunning predictions. And this has happened over and over again. So I'll be talking about how to look at animals. And this is something, if you can go to the nakshatra, the sacred animals of nakshatras, then you could give a lot many, there's a lot many secrets out there. People haven't focused on that part of the subject. But whenever I just talk about animals with people, they get astonished that there's so many secrets that, even they themselves find it unbelievable when I tell them, this is your trait, this is your nature. And what I've tried to do with this research of mine, I've tried to bring nakshatra, which is the Vedic astrology, with Chinese astrology, right? So let me share my screen and show you.
I'll be right back. Just share the screen. I'm just going to go to the restroom.
Yeah.
Dr. Arjun Payaji, that's actually with nakshatras, I've always used the animals. And I think that's very interesting because it's a very prominent part, even speaking about Vishaka, just the nature of the tiger, if someone really thinks about the nature of a tiger.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how Michael brought up the monkey with Shravana. It's very potent.
Very, very powerful and very, very simple.
Nothing was out of place. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And just this, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can all of you? Yeah. See, even the first thing, the animal symbol, or should we wait for a couple to come back and then we could. And what I've seen with these animal totems and with Chinese astrology is you can actually, you can understand, when a particular native would be active. What time of the day?
So true.
What time of the day?
All the big cats, night animals.
Night animals, yes. Exactly.
Yeah, so, and I don't know, with Chinese astrology, they also have mansions, the lunar mansions. They
Exactly.
have a system of nakshatras that they group together in these kingdoms. So that's a very fascinating connection that you've begun to make.
Very true. And let me tell you, for example, if you can see the horse, okay? So the animal totem, Ashwini and Shatabesha, the animal totem is the horse. And if you see the deity which is associated with this animal is Surya, which is your sun god. And what is the commonalities that you see when you talk about Ashwini and Shatabesha? The common thing is both are healers. And both are connected with the horse. And they're connected with the sun. See, sun is the only source of light, and that is what heals you. The sunlight is the original source. And that is what heals you. Many of the ailments that you have, you can just get rid of those ailments. There is nothing called as, a depression. If you go and walk in the sun in the morning, you get rid of your depression. It's very simple. Or if you find that somebody is ill, even get an image of a horse, and place it beside them. They get the instant energy of the sun. If somebody who is unable to walk outside, okay, and get the sunlight, they can do that. So you obviously know there is something which is very healing just with this horse. Looking at videos of horses, you suddenly get the energy of the kind of a healer, right? So likewise, you can go to each of these nakshatras and you can connect them to each of those deities, and you can draw upon the energy of the deity through these animal totems or these animal symbology. Okay. The only thing which you see in this chart which is the mongoose type, which is the Uttarashada. It doesn't have a female counterpart, right? And that's why you find that sometimes Uttarashada natives, again, you have to look at the chart and totality. I mean, you see it holistically and look for other. But that is the clue you get. These people cannot commit. They cannot commit to people. Now, when I went to Chinese astrology and was studying Chinese astrology, I found that they have 3 major categories of animals. So you're talking about domestic animals, like the dogs and the cats. Then you have the wild animals, which is the untamed nature. It's the untamed desire. Okay, so you're talking about Chitra Nakshatra, which is or Purva Bhadrapada or Dhanishta. They are untamed desires because they are the lion, the wild animals. You're talking about Ardra, the Mula types. They are the dogs, the domesticated ones. So which means even though an Ardra might have a desire that can, it's at the conscious level, they can still work on making them more domesticated. Okay. And then you have these mythical beasts in Chinese astrology. When you talk about, say, the dragon, for example. So you see that the dragon has, it's kind of a future potential. It's very magical, right? And the dragon for the Chinese, it has unlimited resources. So graphical representation is very key in understanding Chinese astrology. And I'll show you how I've linked it to nakshatras. Okay, this is very fascinating. Now, when you look at Chinese astrology, and this is again Chinese attributes with each of those zodiacal animals, and what the Chinese say about those animals, that gives you greater clues when you are studying nakshatras. Okay, see, many of them you might not find some of those animals, like for example, a pig. You don't have a pig in as an animal totem and Vedic astrology. But many of them you could find, if it's a monkey. So for example, Michael was talking about a monkey. So it's about changeability, right? So what you see is a monkey is very fickle. When the moon comes in Shravana Nakshatra, okay, they become very fickle. It is because a monkey cannot be on one branch. It tries jumping from one branch to another. For example, if you have a 10th Lord coming into Shravana, definitely he would be changing his career very frequently, just like the monkey.
And it's a Chara Nakshatra.
It's a Chara Nakshatra. So they keep traveling, they keep moving around. There is no stability, right? And look at the tiger here, or the rat. So rat, we talk about rats, but rats are very intelligent. Okay, they show wisdom, right? And which are the two rat nakshatras, which is Magha and Purva Phalguni, are two rat nakshatras. They're quite intelligent people, and they show industriousness. So you can study the system. For example, the snake. It shows flexibility, and they say flexibility without strength leads to compromise. This is the Chinese saying. So beautifully, you can actually use this and try to interpret and study nakshatras. Okay, so you get to learn a lot by going into these animal totems. This is the most fascinating bit that I wanted to share with you today. This is the most fascinating. I've seen this. I've tested this, on at least 10, 15 charts. And this is the system from the Chinese where, the 12 zodiacal animals have been divided into hours of the day. Okay. Now, for example, I was speaking with somebody who was a prominent planet in Chitra. The Chitra is ruled by a tiger. So I asked the native, do you wake up anytime between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning just to get a glass of water or, just to go to the toilet? And every single Chitra native I've asked, they've said yes. And one of them actually said no. But then I found out when she said that I have my 7th Lord there. I said, your husband must be waking up at that hour. She said, bang on.
Wow.
Right? So if you go here in this chart, you can see where is the tiger? Tiger, 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. Why? Because the tiger goes to prey. It goes to hunt, okay, at that hour. So naturally, you see, if it is a Chitra or a Vishaka native, or you have to look, if it is the 9th Lord which is coming into Vishaka or Chitra, it could be their father. If it is the 4th Lord, it's the mother. So, or you can use the Karakatva of the planet as well. Okay, the Karakatva. So moon, if it is there, it could also mean the mother. But see, moon can also mean sometimes you because it's your mind as well, right? So you should be a little bit flexible, but you should be able to understand. And then it works brilliantly. Okay, so that is 3 to 5. That's when the tiger goes hunting for the prey. So you can see this here, right? Now, I've asked somebody who was a Magha Nakshatra native, and they say, usually rats actively look for food between 11 to 1 a.m., 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. So you would find some of those Purva Phalgunis or Magha natives, sneaking out to the refrigerator to have a snack or a bite, to have a chocolate, to grab something, right? That's the hour when they're actually looking for food. They feel hungry. If they're working late hours, most certainly between 11 and 1, they go on a, like a spree trying to eat. So you can look at, these animals and you can actually see, when these animals become very active. For example, look at the snake type. So a snake, you could say it's a Rohini or a Mragashira Nakshatra, right? So they are very, very active between 9 to 11. So that's when the snakes leave their holes, between 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the morning. So you would find that these people would be, trying to deck up, dress up. So you have to know the inherent qualities of the nakshatra and then look at that and look what prominent planet is sitting there. And then you should be able to say so many things about these people, right? So look, yeah.
How did you relate that first table that you showed to this one? How do you
see? Yeah, this table I'm saying, So this is your nakshatra table.
Okay. Yeah.
So here I know. So a rat type is a Magha or a Purva Phalguni.
Okay.
Okay. So that is why I know that these qualities would be more prominent when you have prominent planets posited here. If it is your Lagna or your ascendant, if it is your moon, if it is your sun, if it is your Lord of your Lagna, then those traits become more prominent when those fall here.
Or even the Atmakaraka.
Atmakaraka, yeah. So you can actually say a lot about those people, a lot about their traits. Okay, for example, a Vishaka or a Chitra have a tendency to mark their territory, because tigers are known to mark their territory by actually, making marks on the bark of the tree, by even, urinating. They actually mark.
The person will urinate on the refrigerator. Hey, that's my cake. Don't take it.
So you can see some traits like that. They might not be urinating or making marks, but when they say it's my table, you see a chitra or a vishaka. Yeah. If it is your table, you don't want to be fiddling around with.
Don't take my food. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Can this table be used for compatibility for marriage purpose?
This is actually the table which is used for. It is Yoni. Okay, this is used, but it gets only 4 points in 4 points in the Ashtakuta method. Yeah. But I'm using this table to understand nakshatras in greater detail. Right? You can go and you can find so many clues that you can see with these, and those are certain deities you can actually connect to very easily when you have the rat type. So, for example, if you are a very prominent Maga or a Purva Falguni, you have a planet there, then you can choose your time of meditating or chanting mantras on Ganesh during that period. Is between 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. That's when your chanting will become very, very have a profound impact.
Okay.
Do you see where I'm coming from? So you can use these very, very but some of them you won't be able to find. For example, there is no dragon.
Yeah, that's what
in our system. Yeah, the rooster. For example, you might not find a rabbit, but you can use a rabbit because you can use it instead of a deer here.
Dr. Arjun Paiji, in some places in India, Jyeshta and Anuradha Nakshatra are connected with the rabbit, correct?
Rabbits, exactly. That's correct. That's why. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, instead of the deer, you can use Jyeshta and Anuradha with the rabbit. And you can see what is the trait of the rabbit here. So the rabbit is caution. So that is what you see with Jyeshta. Jyeshta is, Indra dominating, right? But they are always on there. So they show supremacy and dominance by, they do not want anybody to threaten their authority. So they attack even before they could sense the danger. So that is caution, right? And what it says here is caution without, valor leads to cowardice. So this gives you beautiful meaning. And now what you can do is you can just go and look at the rabbit, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's when the rabbit is very, very active. So if you are a rabbit type, if you are a Jyeshta or Anuradha, then you can do your Chandra mantras, moon. If you feel fickle, then do your mantras during 5 to 7 in the morning, the Brahma Muhurta, just before sunrise. That's when it's very, very effective. If you
maybe good for anxiety.
Exactly. If you have a disturbed mind, if you feel frustrated, if you feel anxious, if you feel fearful, anything, all ailments which are related to your mind, you could probably pacify them when you pray on the moon between 5 a.m. to 7 a.m.
But aren't there dragons related to like Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapada?
Exactly.
Uttara Bhadrapada, yeah.
That's right. Because that's the fire serpent of Purva Bhadrapada, and Uttara Bhadrapada is the water serpent, the deep oceans. So you can actually connect them there as well. So, but I've not researched this. This is something that you could sit across the table, and knowing their nakshatras, you should be able to give, great insights. It's a very simple system. But I hope people have understood how to use this, and how to use even the deities and their mantras to have a profound sadhana. You want to do a meditation. You want to do some prayers. Those prayers become very, very powerful in those hours. So this table is really, really powerful. See, you can go deeper into it. I don't want to talk about it because there is also a thing called in Chinese astrology, secret friend and clash animals. Sometime else, because I don't think we have the time for it, but you can use that to understand which animals would be secret, friends with you and secret enemies as well. And use them in, Vedic astrology. The Chinese astrology is brilliant, actually, super brilliant. You can use this and you can see, what is the trait when monkeys become very lively. So a Shravana native might feel very energetic between 3 to 5 p.m. 1500 hours to 70. They might be, feeling very active during that time. So I want people to just research and study this further and come with, more insights and see if the system works.
Definitely, I would do that. Yeah.
Definitely.
It's
Yes.
interesting.
So now should we move to the Dwaradamsha? Okay. So now I guess we will switch the completely 360 direction to the divisional chart of Dwaradamsha, which is known as the D12 chart. And I believe since I remember, I guess Dr. Pai was the one who recommended this. So I'm going to let you first start on the importance of Dwaradamsha and some of the things that you have noticed.
Yeah. Kapiel, see, whenever we talk about Dwadashamsha is the D12. It is a very important chart, and many people have not understood the D12 chart, is because they think it is only connected to your parents. Yes, definitely it is connected. You can also see your parents from the D12, but it is not only pertaining to your parents. You can also look at your grandparents. You can look at your lineage. You can also look at your spouse as well. There are some scholars, that I believe who look at the D12 even for marriage. It's not D9. Some of them will look at that as well. Right?
Because it shows the type of person you might continue your lineage with, right?
Sometimes,
yeah.
Exactly. So there is some connection. And D12, it's called, as I said, Suryamsha. That's another name for, Dwadashamsha, D12. It's, you actually, why it's called Suryamsha is you divide each zodiac sign into 12 parts of 2 degrees and 30 minutes. 12 parts, and the sun takes 12 months to go around, so we have 12 months, and that's why this becomes a very, very important chart for understanding the soul's progress and also showing the connection with your lineage. And in Sanskrit, it is called as Gotra. Okay, so let me go and share. And what I want to do, it's a very simple technique I'll also share at the end of this thing. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Right. Now, you have to understand what is Gotra. Okay. Now, Gotra, the word, if you look at the Sanskrit dictionary, it gives you various meanings. Usually what is Gotra is, it's a species, it's a clan, or it's a race. But when you look very closely at the different meanings of Gotra, okay, you understand that it also means a herd of cows or an umbrella. So go means cow.
Wow. Yeah.
Tra means, I told you, it's an instrument. Go also in Sanskrit means, you talk about gachami, you go. English word go, it's movement, right? So go tra is somewhere showing you your connection with the cow and the lineage of the cow and all the Saptarishis. Okay, so you can see that in our system of nakshatras, so Gotra is very important. What is Gotra? Gotra are a group of sages who are, your patriarchal lineage, and they are protecting you. So you have to know, there are two aspects. I'll come to that later on, but let me tell you, there are 7 Saptarishis. Okay, and each of those Saptarishis are supposed to be born from different parts of Brahma. See, for example, if it is Marichi, they say he's born from the eyes, Vasishta, Angiras from the head, and all of these. And then there are certain nakshatras which are, connected with these, Saptarishis. This is one system that I've seen where, say, Marichi, he rules over nakshatras Ashwini, Pushya, Swati, and Abhijit. It's a 28 system, right, of the Dwadashamsha. But I've also seen another system, and this is another classic called as Kala Prakashika. From Kala Prakashika, when I see the nakshatra and the Gotras, they have actually, what they've done is the first 4 nakshatra from Ashwini to Rohini, they've given it to Marichi, then Vasishta, Mragashira to Pushya, and so on and so forth. Okay, so what is Gotra and what is Suryamsha, and why you need to know about D12 is because there are 2 types of Gotras that you have to know. One is a spiritual lineage. Another one is your genetical lineage. Or typically your genetical lineage is known to many of the Hindus or people in India especially. They say, my father belonged to this Gotra because of the genetical lineage that Rishi has a link with their family. Okay, but many of the people, outside India wouldn't know what their Gotra is. That is when you go and you adopt your spiritual lineage. Okay, now who is your Rishi? Who is your lineage? A Rishi or a sage was the patrilineal forebearer of your clan. Okay, so typically what used to happen in the past, when you do marriage matching or you do matching, that's when you look at the Gotra or the genetical lineage Rishi. So people from the same Gotra were supposed to be brothers and sisters because they had the same genetical makeup, because they came from the same genetical Rishi. So that's why they were called as Sagotra. Sa means, we are equal. So they were not allowed to marry because what happens is it causes anomalies in the children when you marry between the same. That is, I'm talking about the genetical lineage. Now, many of us do not know what our genetical lineage is. Only people in India would know, people because your father has told you, grandfather has told you. Now, how to find your spiritual lineage? And that is why you use your D12. And it's a simple thing that you have to look at the nakshatra occupied by the Lord of the 12th house of your Dwadashamsha. And when you look at the nakshatra where, which nakshatra the Lord of the 12th house in the D12 has gone, it can give you a brilliant clues about what is your purpose and where your ancestors have come from, what was their connection. Then you need to know the nakshatra, the details of the nakshatra. So if you want to judge a person through his family, his lineage, his pending karmas of his ancestors. See, this is something that people have not understood. People think, it's only my karmas. Remember, when you inherit from your ancestors, your father, you inherit their DNA, you inherit their genetics, you inherit their properties, you inherit their wealth, you inherit their qualities, even facial features or whatever. When you are inheriting everything, don't you think you'll also be inheriting some of their karmas, which they have left behind? And that is why we offer Shraddha, we say, or give Tarpana, we give oblations to our ancestors, because they are not asking for anything from you. They're just asking for food and prayers, which will help them elevate the soul. And they can, go and the journey of life becomes much easier. And that's why you need to know who your Rishi is, which Rishi you belong to, and you pray to the Rishi to help your ancestors, in their journey after life. That's what you do, because many of the souls find lost. They're lost on this plane because there's nobody praying for them. And that's why we say, do good deeds, do good for others, because at least somebody's prayers after you die will help you. And, then souls will come and help you to go away from this. But imagine if you are a sinner, you're a murderer, you're a serial killer, nobody wants to associate with you. And when they die, the souls are stuck here on this plane and there is no prayers for them. Nobody prays for them. Remember one thing, no soul is bad. All souls are pure. This body, what we take birth in, that is sinful. No soul is bad. No, all souls are pure. Soul is indestructible. And that's why we need to know where we came from, where the soul is, why we have. So all of that shows you the link with D12. So this is my technique. Look at where your 12th house Lord in your D12 and which nakshatra it is going and sitting in the D12. And that gives you significant clues. And then use this table here to know which Rishi you need to actually pray to help your ancestors in their journey towards higher consciousness.
So when we find out, like my Rishi is Atri, or my Rishi is, Mirichi. What does that then signify? What does that then tell us? Does it, like, more than, I know this has a mythological story, but then how do you convert that into the real practical, so you can tell somebody who's sitting in front of you, like, how is this important to you?
That's when you need to know more about the nakshatras. That is when the nakshatras are going to help you. Suppose if the 12th lord of your D12 has gone into Bharani, okay, then you know it is Yama. You know about some lineage, so you can sometimes say, "Are you been doing the oblations, the final rites? Have you done the final rites of your ancestors?" And many of them will say, "Oh, no, we have not. We never done this because we don't follow this."
Mm-hmm.
Or my great grandfather used to do it, but then we have discontinued. That's when you know there are curses which might come. It is not actually a curse. See, that's a wrong word. I know sometimes it's not a curse. It's just that they are looking for your attention. They're seeking
transfer
attention.
of karma.
Exactly.
That you must fulfill. But does that also tell you about, like, their lineage? Okay, why they're doing farming or police work or medical work? Is that also something that's signified by the 12?
I think you should go deeper into this. I think you should be able to understand, because see, every nakshatra is also connected to the varna, the caste.
All right.
It's also connected to the three murti principles. So you would know what stage of the soul is in this life. So it is more of a spiritual science. It's not about predictive when you go to D12.
Okay.
I know there are so many other techniques that you could use, because you can divide the D12 into, say 12 parts, but you have four devatas.
Yeah.
Ganesh, you have Ganesh or Ganapati, then you have Ashwini Kumars, you have Yama, and then you have the Ahi. Ahi is the serpents.
Yeah.
Ahi, or the serpents, or the sarpas.
Right.
So whenever, which position your planet is going and sitting in the D12, your 12th lord. Because what is your 12th lord? 12th lord is your Vyayasthan. Vyayasthan is the 12th house of your body,
Yeah.
That's 12. So that shows you something about your past and something about your ancestors also, the 12th house.
Perfect. So,
because see, 12th house is also 4th from 9th.
Yeah.
Okay, which means it shows your maternal, paternal grandmother.
Yeah.
And it's also 9th from 4th. So you're, right? Grandparents.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's
okay.
what I had to share today.
So I'll now move on to the new member of the gang, EK Dhilip Kumar, sir. So what is your take on the D12?
Yeah, I've been always, consistently using this only for knowing more about parents. And especially with regard to the, dangers to the life of the father or the mother. And sometimes the death. So I've not used it in any other way other than this. So how do I share the screen?
You can go click at the bottom. Just take your cursor at the bottom. You'll see share screen with the green icon.
Okay.
Yeah, just take your cursor. Yeah.
Hey, is it showing my? I have a screenshot because this is it showing?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you see here, I have the Dwadasamsa here, D12. And you see, what I do is I take, for example, here, this is the ascendant, where which is Capricorn ascendant, and in Dwadasamsa, this is the ascendant. This is Leo. And let's take up the first case where the death of the father. It happened in the Dasha of Rahu and the sub-period of Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in the Dwadasamsa, Rahu is in Rishabha, which is Taurus, and Mercury is in Sagittarius. So you find that there is a what we call a Sashtashtaka, a bad angle between them. From Rahu, Mercury is in the 8th. So generally in the Dasha Antardasha scheme, in Maharishi Parashara's main text, you find he always keeps asking us from the Dashanath, where is the planet? Is it in 6, 8, and 12? And then he has a separate set of instructions where he says mostly negative things are to be expected during such a time. So what we do is we take the same rule and just put it over the Dwadasamsa, because I've been using Dwadasamsa for parents and use the same idea that it should be bad time for the parents. So if you use this concept and put it over Navamsha, it will be a bad time in marriage. It will be a bad time with regard to children if it is in Saptamsa. So coming back to the Dwadasamsa here, you find from Rahu, Mercury is in the 8th house. But reading this separately is also not a good idea, because you'll have to go back to the main chart and use some other rules, 1 or 2 extra rules to figure that out. For example, when Rahu Mercury is on, where is a particular planet? For example, where is Saturn moving? Because most of from Chandrakala Nadi, we are told that there's a rule like this. There's an idea like this, where you touch the Lagna and take the 9th here, where my mouse is over here, the 9th, which is the house of father. And from the house of father, you count 8. And this particular place, the Lord of this house, Mars, in Navamsha, where does it sit? So it is over here, in Capricorn. So Chandrakala Nadi says that if Saturn comes over here, or here, or here, it is dangerous for the parents. Now, in this case, we are reading about father. So, at a time when Saturn was over here, and then this person is going through Rahu, Mercury, the father passed away. And if you go back to the main chart, Mercury is connected to the father anyway, because it is the 9th Lord. So, matters pertaining to the father is likely to happen during that period. So, you can develop everything, what we call the stacking effect. You pile up one more evidence, not just that it is Rahu Mercury alone is the cause. During a bad time, and then when we look at the father's chart, the father is also running a Marka period at that time. So it all comes and falls into place together.
Okay.
Synchronous.
Yeah, because the father himself has to go through his own
through that experience. Okay. So one way to use this Dwadasamsa, according to me, as far as this topic is concerned, is to take the sun itself as a Karaka for father and the moon as the Karaka for mother. That is one method. And the other method is take the ascendant and look at the 9th and take the 4th from the ascendant. One of these techniques will work on the Dwadasamsa. Always. So, if you take the case of mother passing away, this incident happened during this person's Jupiter Mahadasha and Venus Antardasha. So coming back to the Chandrakala Nadi technique, we will have to use the same idea here, that this is the 4th house, house of mother, and then take the 8th from here, which comes to this place, and the owner of this sign is Mars. And find out where Mars is in Navamsha. It is here. So when Saturn enters the trinal house from this, there is a great possibility for the mother passing away. And so you find when Saturn was here, the event happened. When Saturn was in Kanya, the event happened. And again, going back to the Dwadasamsa here, you find from Jupiter, Venus is in 8th house. So in the divisional chart, if the Dasha and Antardasha lords are in bad axis of bad angles, like 6, 8, and 12 from the Dasha. So what happens is the Dasha becomes a temporary ascendant in any Dasha Antardasha reading. And treat this as the ascendant, and then you find that from Jupiter, Venus is in the 8th. Or if you use the other technique that the now you take, this is the Lagna, and then the fourth house is the mother. And the second house from the fourth happens to be ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is already sitting in the 12th house. So the Lord of the second sitting in the 12th house, Maraka period. So if you can get more evidence, but of course starting always from the Rashi chart and not reading the divisional chart separately, you will get to know something more of a finer aspect of that particular Dasha and Antardasha. So this is how I've been using the Dvada Samsa for a long time.
Okay.
Sir, may I ask you a question, Dhilip Kumarji?
Yeah,
is this the chart of someone who may work with calculations and maybe even, is there any astrologers in the family? Is this the horoscope of someone who may work with calculations, measurements, and is there astrology in the family?
Oh, it's my own chart.
Oh! Wow, Eve.
My father was a very good astrologer.
Okay.
He was always connected with that. And I have, my father told me that there were a lot of people in his family that who knew astrology.
Okay, thank you.
How did you see that? Because I cannot read South Indian chart, so for me, just like a board game.
Just a combination of the Nakshatras and the Rashi chart. There's an intense focus. Oh. I mean, just to make this short, but also his Dvada Samsa. Because Mercury is very prominent for this chart, if you really pay attention. And then I just wanted to ask. Thank you.
Okay.
In the divisional charts, I've been using the same idea as the Rashi chart, only from the point of view of Dasha and Antardasha, the angles. One of my teachers, he taught me this on how to use this idea on the Navamsha chart. I always found that divorce happened when the Antardasha planet is in 6, 8, and 12, and especially 6th from the Mahadasha in the Navamsha. So I just use the same idea for all divisional charts, and I found a lot of good results coming out of that.
Okay. Perfect. So I guess we'll move to Eve.
Yes.
Eve, what is your take on this?
Okay.
Oh, you can just press the yeah, there you go.
Well, so with the Dvada Samsa at the D12 chart, I think there's already been so many beautiful things said. I'm kind of humbled by that, what Dr. Arjun Paichi shared, what Dhilip Kumarji shared, and I'm sure what Ryan and Michael share is going to be very profound because they specialize. I mean, I just can imagine. So I just kind of made a few notes on simple ways that I look towards the D12. So first of all, the deities to me are very important. So you've got all of the deities that in some way work with the exit of the body, exiting the body, the rebirth process, the bringing back of life, like the Ashwin Kumars, the bringing back of life. You've got this theme running. You've got Rahu and Ketu becoming very important. So in the 12th house of the Dvada Samsa, I've always seen as well being someone's astral state after death. And so this is very important for the previous life karma that's coming. And one key theme that I talk to clients about, especially in the West, here we go. We've got this huge thing with changing our fate. Rising against the fate. And, and in the East, there's more accepting of the fate. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying either one is right or wrong. I usually look at it like a home renovation. And if the person has the merit or the punya, they can actually work on the home that they built in the previous life, the home that they're living in this life. They can actually work on that in some way. But they're still going to be dealing with that foundation. They're not going to be able to tear, just like if we go to sleep tonight and we wish we were born in London to different parents, it's not going to happen. And this is the D12. It's very solidified karmas. We can work on them, but they're very solidified because they come through Rahu and Ketu and through the genetics and through the previous life imprint. So I believe, what I've understood through my years of research with this, you do read this chart like a chart, like the main chart. And so the lords of each houses, but the 12th house from every house becomes very important as well.
Why is that? 12
Because
house from each house.
yeah, the 12th house, especially from Kartika, like the indicator of something. The 12th house from Venus, the 12th house from the sun, especially the sun. Okay, especially the sun, the moon, Rahu, and Ketu. Those become very important. And so, but any graha in the 12th house, you know, I will always look at the nakshatra. Some of the stuff that Dr. Arjun Paiji shared, I just felt was so profound. If you notice, the rishis that are connected, they're all born from Brahma's either eyes or his eyes, his head, or his vayu, which animates life. So once again, we get this theme. And if you look at Apana Vayu and Ayurveda, that's what flushes everything out. And that's also the death, the moment, the release moment. So you have all those, you have Shata Vishak, you have Purva Bhadrapada, Uttar Bhadrapada, and Revati, the nakshatras of finalization. So I do think that there is very important connections here with the purpose of this birth coming in from the Dwadasamsha as well, not only genetically, but what heavy karmas, because we all have them, all of us born in this age. We've got, you know, we've got some things going on, you know, and so when you look at that, with the Dwadasamsha, you're really looking at, like, especially if you relate the values to it, how you can't, you know, how that force is going to be moving in your life. Is it going to be regulating? Is it going to be creative? Is it going to be the witness? You know, the eyes, you notice that Kritika Nakshatra is connected to being born from Brahma's eyes. So it's the eternal witness, right? So are you going to be witnessing? Are you going to be releasing, finalizing large amounts of karma? So this is just one of the ways that I look at the Dwadasamsha. Is it's very personal to the individual because it shows the bulk of past life debt.
So 12 from Venus can represent past life debt of the spouse.
Feminine, whatever you've done to women.
Or whatever
you've done to
okay, I see
the
what
feminine force, whatever that karma is related to the feminine force. You know, because it's said that Venus relates to everything relating to women. Right,
okay. And do you also apply the Charakarkas? Like, let's say, you know, the Gemini, Atmakarka.
Yeah, I do, but I feel I'm much more of a nakshatra person. I mean, if you just had to ask me what I'm going to be really looking at, is bouncing off of that.
So you actually look at nakshatras in the individual charts.
Well,
you're saying.
There are people that do that. But you can also just look at, like, so say Venus in the main chart is in, let's say Swati. Okay, so you could also just consider that condition of Venus in the Dwadasamsha to manifest through Swati, or you could look at the degree and say, you know, that nakshatra is there. There's debate on that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Ryan,
all right, is that working now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, the divisional charts, when you mentioned doing the D12 last time, I get a little tickle because the divisional charts, if you pay attention to Brihat Parashara Horashastra, what I always found fascinating is that when you're going through the description of that text, the divisional charts come in real early on. You know, it's like right after the description of the zodiac signs. And what occurred to me as I was reading through that was that what it's telling us is that really the divisional charts are just a continuation of an explanation of a zodiac sign. Okay. And what I mean by that is, here, let me share my screen. I've got some stuff here. What I mean by that is when you look at a chart, so I've divided some of these signs up. Can you see it all right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So for example, in Aries, if we look at the Drekana, well, the Drekana of Aries is going to go Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And that means that when you got a planet in the first third of Aries, it's going to be in the Drekana of Aries. When it's in the second third of Aries, it's going to be in Leo. The third of Aries, it's going to be in Sagittarius. And that means that when I look at Aries and I see a planet in that one of those spaces, it's going to tell me how that planet is further refined related to the Drekana. And I divide Cancer up here into the Hora, and I divide these other signs up. I just picked them randomly and divide them up in the Navamsha and the Dasamsha. And when we look at the Dwadasamsha, which is the D12, what I find, and this came after reading Sarvarta Chintamani, is that you can look at it like a chart, as has been discussed. And I found that works really well, as Mr. Kumar mentioned, when it comes to looking at dashas and timing of things, okay? But when it comes to looking at the chart itself, I look at the Rashi chart and I figure out, all right, let's say we've got Mars or Saturn. Mars and Saturn's the 10th lord. And we get that Mars or Saturn in debilitation in the Dwadasamsha. Mm-hmm. So what that can tell me is that the karma that the person's working on in this lifetime, based on the Rashi, is going to be positive or negative depending on the dignity in the Rashi. But if it's negative in the Dwadasamsha, then they have to overcome some past life negativity from their ancestors, or even their own past lifetimes. So you can see that when we break up the Dwadasamsha, like let's say we've got Mars in Aries. So this is the number 1 for Aries here. So Mars is in Aries, but let's say it happens to fall at 7 degrees 30 to 10 degrees of Aries. So anytime we get, when we get Mars there, that's going to put Mars in the Dwadasamsha of Cancer, where it's going to be debilitated. So in the Rashi chart, it's in its own sign, it's working well, it's going to have a lot of initiative, it's going to do a lot of good things for itself. But if we see that it's in that degree, in the Dwadasamsha, it's going to overcome some lack of capacity to take initiative. Maybe there was some laziness in relationship to the parents or the ancestry, or they come from a family that doesn't necessarily value taking initiative, or these positive Martian traits. So when I'm looking at the Dwadasamsha, I'm taking a planet and I'm figuring out what that planet's doing in the Rashi. And then I'm seeing what is it doing in the Dwadasamsha to further confirm or deny. Is it going to have support from its ancestry? Is it going to have support from its past karmas? Or is it going to fail because it hasn't overcome some of these debts that it's set up in past lifetimes? Does this make sense what I'm trying to get at here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very clear.
I have another example chart here. Let's see if I can find it. I try to get all these together. Where are you? Okay. So for example, let's look at this chart. So when we're looking at this chart, this is the Rashi over here. So this is the D1. And some people might look at this chart and say, all right, well, we've got a Virgo ascendant, and we've got Mercury in the 10th house, which is good. That helps them with their career, they're achieving their goals and so on. And we've got Venus also in the 9th house in its own home, which is also good, especially for a Virgo ascendant. That Venus rules over the 2nd and 9th house. So someone might look at that and say, all right, especially with Jupiter here down here in the 2nd, they're going to have a lot of grace and benefit. They're going to have a lot of support to managing their resources, to their finances, to making good choices that support their path in life and their dharma, because this is in the 9th house. However, if we would say that, we would be partially correct. But by Venus being at this degree in the sign of Taurus, that puts Venus in the Dwadasamsha in Virgo, where it happens to be not necessarily in the best situation, right? Mm-hmm. So while there's going to be all this promise for success, maybe there's going to be issues from their family, their genetics, their lineage, and so on, which shows that they've not really been trained well about how to make good decisions which will actually support their capacity to earn wealth and to live dharmically and so on. Because Venus is good here, so they want to do it, and they've got the potential, but they have to overcome this sort of karmic drag, because we see that Venus, that 2nd and 9th house lord, is debilitated within the Dwadasamsha, right? Does this make sense?
So you're saying that they will have oppositions from women in their family for what they're trying to do as a goal? Or is it
be that
dignity of the planet that is just not going to allow them to
what it's going to show, going with what your example is, what it's going to show is maybe the way that the women in their family modeled how they managed the resources of the home or something of this nature.
Right.
That sort of imprinted upon them. And so even though they've got this potential to do good, they have to overcome this sort of negative conditioning that they got from their ancestors. And it could be karmic, it could be just like we're talking about conditioning and so on, but it's going to be something from the past that prevents them from really making that Venus work as well as we might think it would based on where it is in the Rashi, right? Similar, one other example here is that if we look at the Rashi, we've got Mars debilitated in Cancer. So third lord and eighth lord debilitated in Cancer in the 11th house. So again, we might look at that and we could say something like, maybe this person has a lot of difficulty with their peers or a lot of drama. So peers, third house, drama, sudden breaks and changes, eighth house, Mars in the 11th around organizations or larger groups of people or sort of achieving their goals with their peers. And so that debilitated Mars would contribute to that. But now we want to see, well, what kind of support do they have from their past, from their genetics, from their ancestry? Is it helping or is it hurting that? And so if we go to the D12, we're going to find Mars, the Lord of the third and the eighth, in Libra and in a friend's dignity there in Libra. And it's also in the 11th house in the D12. So it's in a friend sign. It's in Libra, which is a sign of having good, wholesome exchanges with people, supporting relationships. So this would show that maybe they themselves have this initial difficulty with sudden breaks and changes with their peers, their relationships, achieving their goals. But because that Mars is doing well in the Dwadasamsha, the person has had good modeling, or maybe their parents, their grandparents, and so on, has been well connected in regards to networks and so on, so that even though they've got that hiccup, they've got that kind of weakness there, that the support from the past can help to carry them to success in that regard. So you can see that it's coming from the past because it's the D12 here, right?
But then let's say if you go one step even a little deeper, not even deep, but let's say if this planet Mars was not so well placed in Navamsha, which is apparently the general source of the strength of the planet, then how would you judge that from looking from birth to the Dwadamsha to Navamsha?
Right. Yeah, and that's a good question, and this is a little bit different way that I look at the Vargas in general. Because, for example, like I'm looking at the D12 as what's coming in from their past to support this Rashi chart, this birth chart. Because I see the Rashi chart as kind of what's actually going to happen. And when I look at the Navamsha chart, when I'm looking at that, I'm seeing, does this person have a sense of purpose in their activities? Are they really going to be able to grow into their dharma, their sort of mission, and so on? So if Mars wasn't so good, then we would see that they would have trouble finding a sense of purpose and working through these problems. So when I'm looking at all these Vargas, I'm looking at them specifically for a particular thing. So it's almost like I look at the second house for one thing, I look at the Hora for one thing, I look at the ninth house for one thing, I look at the Navamsha for one thing. So it's, in my mind, it's like they're all facets of the same gem.
Yeah.
And you have to look at the right facet for the right thing. So we could tie in the Navamsha with it, but it wouldn't necessarily be from past life issues such as with the Dwadasamsha here.
I see. Okay.
Is this clear?
Ryan,
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan,
Yes.
Can you actually go back to the table that you showed about Dwadashamsha?
Yeah, is that one there?
Yeah, that one there. Yeah. So typically, what I try to do is, if you can say for what Ryan said, that imagine that Mars is in 7 degrees 30 and 10 degrees, right? That's out there. So the first number one, which is 0 to 2 degrees 30, is associated with Ganesh or Ganapati. The second quarter is associated with Ashwini Kumars. The third quarter is associated with Yama. And the fourth quarter is associated with Ahi or serpents. Okay? And the same pattern will repeat. Now, whenever Mars comes there, I definitely know that Mars is debilitated in Ashlesha Nakshatra. And Mars in that degree, I know, feels debilitated. Because that is where, it goes to Cancer. and that is where the debilitation, and it's the serpent, right?
Right.
Now, then if it goes even to the, between 17 degrees, 30 and 20, even though, Mars happens to be in its own house in Scorpio, but
Right.
still it would give a serpentine sort of energy, which is debilitation.
Mm-hmm.
All watery signs, Mars gives you some element of debilitation.
Is that because it's more of an internalized energy, like a Scorpio is
Exactly.
more internalized energy versus the number one, where it's more forceful and more of a Mars-based energy?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what. And this is a technique which a great astrologer called S.K. Mehta from India. Okay, he saw this, and this is a beautiful thing. It works very, very well. You might think that Moon seems to be in his own house, and when it is in Cancer, but because Moon is debilitated in Scorpio in a watery sign, Moon will behave as though it is debilitated even in its own house, which is a watery sign of Cancer.
Right.
So you can actually
within that
use,
degree, right? Within the 10 degrees to 1230.
exactly.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Not the entire way.
No, not the entire. Just that.
Just
that,
this degree.
this degree.
Yeah.
Mr. Ryan used a very interesting idea on the position of the grahas in the Vargas, the digital charts, which is actually what Maharishi Parashara wanted us to do. Because when we were asked to calculate the Vimshopaka strength, he has used the same formula, like if it is in its own sign or exalted and so on. And he seems to have given weightage to each of the divisional chart. And in that, we find Rashi chart gets, I think, 3.5. And Navamsha gets 3, but Shashtiamsa gets
5.
4. It gets 4.
Okay.
So Shashtiamsa gets the maximum point in the Vimshopaka strength, and Dwadasamsa gets 0.5. So, but in all the calculation, the questions asked are, is the planet in own sign, exalted gets the maximum, of course, and debilitated gets the least. And then you have a range of that in between, like own house, then Mula Trikona, and then friend's house, enemy's house, and so on. So one good way to start is looking at Dwadasamsa. If you say that it is connecting, it's related to parents. If a planet is getting lower and lower marks in that Dwadasamsa, you could use this knowledge while reading the Dasha and Antardasha results.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's one way of looking at it.
Okay.
Well, it's also why in Sarvarta Chintamani, I mean, this runs through other texts as well, that they say the more often a planet's in good dignity through the Vargas, the better it's going to function. And that's because it's showing, each Varga represents, in my mind, an area of life in a way. And so if a planet is doing well in 5 areas of life versus 2 areas of life, that's going to show that planet is going to have more support in harmony with what the chart wants it to be in harmony with, right? So when you start getting negative dignities throughout more of the Vargas, it shows that planet doesn't have quite the same harmony to give its fruits as freely. So anyway, I think the Varga is really wonderful, and the Dwadasamsa itself, can tell you so much about what baggage do you either have to overcome, or where do you have support to help you make choices so you don't make mistakes because you don't know what you're doing in this life. So.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful, Ryan. I
So
think you
Michael,
summarize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Michael, what is your take on the Dwaradamsha?
It was great because Ryan just made a great segue. Like, you just made the perfect segue. You may not have even been aware of it. But first of all, I just wanted to say, I think it's great that we're doing this because so many different people approach things in so many different manners. It's just great we can learn from each other like this. We're all recycled, right?
Yes.
We're just all recycled, like completely over and over again. You cannot take one single action any day of your life without it having an impact upon somebody else and somebody else having an impact upon you. And we just keep going through this lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, right? And based on what we've done previously, things are happening now.
Yeah.
Based upon what we do now, things are going to happen in the future, right? So there's really a lot that we can learn from the Dwadasamsa chart about that karma that we're carrying into this particular lifetime, right? And with ancestors, it's said that we owe a debt to our ancestors for giving birth to us. And our ancestors owe a debt to us, which is why they give birth to us, right? So, you know, we just all interacted with each other over many, many different lifetimes, right? Maybe you did something for a parent of yours, you saved your parent in a previous lifetime from some difficulty. Well, then they owe you some debt to give birth to you in this particular lifetime. So I want to give people a really simple technique to do with the Dwadashamsha that basically just involves Ketu and Rahu. And if you look at Ketu in the Dwadashamsha chart, you can see the important things that our ancestors have done that are influencing our life now, right? Mm-hmm. Then you look at Rahu, and you can understand what we have to do in order to complete that debt that our ancestors have. Because if you follow the analogy that we're all just, you know, interacting with each other, creating karma, you know, by interacting with each other. And as I said before, our parents, ancestors, you know, 7 generations back, right, owe a debt to us. So they give birth to us. We owe a debt to them. So our debt to them is to help them to resolve some of the karma that they have. And I just always found it really interesting in terms of the concept of generational karma, right? That you'll find with people that, let's say, for instance, somebody's great-great-grandfather used to beat their great-grandfather, and their great-grandfather beat their grandfather, and their grandfather beat their father, and their father beat them. When does it stop? When does it stop? Somewhere down the line, it has to stop. And where it stops is with that person who has that Rahu in the position that's there to overcome that karma. Let's say, for instance, you know, if we're talking about things like that, let's say, for instance, Ketu has been in Aries, right, for several different lifetimes. And then this individual has Rahu in Libra, you know, and they're to consider the impact of their actions. Yeah. Before just acting, right? So I find you can really learn a lot about an individual's personal karma through the Dwadashamsha. So I tend to use the Dwadashamsha and the Shastiamsha and the Rashi, like in order to really deeply understand where an individual is coming from. Okay. If I've not rectified a birth time, I'm not going to work with any houses in the Shastiamsha, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll tend to look at the Shastiamsha first and look at the nodes there. That I tend to look at as stuff that's buried really, really deep within the individual.
But even the sign placement can show a whole lot just in the Shastiamsha.
Exactly.
Like, exactly. If you debilitated Mars, and then you're trying to judge this Mars who's in the 7th house in the Navamsha, you kind of get a very strong
get an idea.
Regardless of which house it's placed in.
And the planets aren't going to change signs that often, and except for the moon. The moon can change. If the moon's close to the edge, then you can kind of question if it, you know, what's going on with that. So, you know, I tend to look at the Shastiamsha first to look at the really deep stuff. And then I look at the Dwadashamsha to see how the parents have kind of, I like using the analogy, created the operating system that individual is going to run in this particular lifetime, unless they decide that they're going to, you know, kind of do a reboot, right? A hard reset and go, I'm going to like reset my hard drive and I'm not going to keep living out this particular drama, right? Let's say, for instance, you've got Ketu in Sagittarius. Well, that individual might come from a family that's very big on a particular belief system, right? And that individual grows up kind of going, well, I don't know, Mom. You know, I don't know, great grandma. I don't really kind of, you know, feel like I'm fitting in with what the rest of you are believing, right? Yeah. So they have Rahu and Gemini. They're going to like test it all out.
Yeah.
And maybe their parents and their ancestors can learn something from them that helps them to evolve, right?
Very true.
Yeah, and so it's a very profound thing through the Dwadashamsha when we do that thing of resolving that karma, because we're not just doing it for us, we're doing it for that ancestral ancestral lineage. And it goes back really, really, you know, far, even if those souls are not here anymore, we're doing it for them too. So I just wanted to give people something simple to do today. You know, just simply look at the nodes. And you can learn so much about an individual. You can learn, okay, well, your parents acted this way with you because this is like some generational thing that you've had, you know, going on. Another thing I kind of wanted to share is with particular planets in Magha Nakshatra. That's always a key to me that I need to go look at the Dwadashamsha.
Absolutely. That's
either just for the nodes or for that particular planet, because Magha is going to show you that there's something that's ancestral there. And if that planet that's in Magha is, you know, under a lot of duress, or if Ketu's under a lot of duress, then that's going to be a lot of ancestral baggage that individual is likely carrying. And so you really, really want to focus on the Dwadashamsha in that particular instance and understand
even genetic
why.
Illnesses.
Exactly.
Genetic illnesses.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful point, Michael. I think it's really, really good. I think I have seen that. Magha, definitely.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I find people in Magha, with planets in Magha, they either tend to be driven to resolve something that their ancestors did, or they tend to not really recognize that they are subconsciously acting like their mother or their father or their grandmother, because they feel that they feel that this burden is mine to carry, you know. And on that particular subject too, I also like looking at the 6 in the Dwadashamsha, because you'll find that, you know, that's really going to show the debt very deeply that one owes to one's ancestors. If that 6th Lord is strong, I've generally found if that 6th Lord is strong, you find that these people grew up in a family where they go, who the hell are these people? Why am I here? I don't feel like I fit in here. Maybe I was adopted. I'm not really sure. And I've actually asked a lot of people who go, you know, well, I grew up in a family, but I didn't really feel a connection with anybody I grew up with. And you find that those people tend to have a really strong 6th Lord from the Dwadashamsha, because they don't really have any debt to those ancestors, or very little debt, I should say, to those ancestors, because we always have a little bit of debt.
Or they're fighting that effort, applying all that effort towards getting,
Right.
So when I'm looking at Dwadashamsha, there's something very fascinating about it, which I'll discuss. But mainly, first of all, I look at it as a normal chart. I see the fact, first of all, look at the impact on the sun and the moon. And then I use the normal yogas too. Like, let's say for Yoga Karaka, you know, let's say somebody is a Cancer ascendant, Mars is conjunct Sun in the 9th house or 2nd house. I know the father is a very powerful person. I know father comes from a very strong either political background, comes from a very strong respected background, has money. Then if I, you know, obviously if I see like, okay, if Sun is in the 8th house with Ketu, okay, in a particular malefic sign, especially ruled by Yama, I know they got a lot of karma. Like I know probably they got physically hit by their father, like easily, because Ketu represents, you know, knife and cutting things. So father has that ability to cut the person and cut their
and Yama's so
wishes,
severe.
desires on. Like any father who may have cut their children's desires done, that's the father with that Ketu conjunction. So I see that. Then the other thing that I noticed is like, and this is just came across because my software is set up in a certain way where I can see all the Ashtakvarga points. Whenever somebody received inheritance, obviously you want to see if in Dwadashamsha 8th Lord is in the 11th house, 2nd house, 4th house. Right. But check the 11th from the 8th house. If the 11th from the 8th house of inheritance receives high Ashtakvarga point, Binashtakvarga, or Sarvashtavarga, like especially above 30, 32 points, you can see that they are going to get money because the debt is not to be paid as strongly. They're going to get, so 8th from the Dwadashamsha or 11th from the 8th house in Dwadashamsha having high Ashtakvarga points gives a very strong indication, okay, you can get inheritance.
Wow.
Okay, and then I've been using this particular technique for literally 2 years now. It's called Padam Chakra, where one house equals to 1 year. So 5th house is your 5th age. 12th house is your 12th age. You come back to the 1st house, which is your 13th age. So you can pretty much go into the birth chart and go round in circles. And the first 12 years though, the very first 12 years of a person's life, look at the Dwaradamsha. Use the first house as the first year. If let's say the first house of the Dwaradamsha is in the 12th house, this person as a baby either went to foreign lands or they were probably hospitalized if there's a malefic planet impact. If the 4th house in the Dwaradamsha is sitting in the 12th house, mother might have gone to the foreign lands. And why Dwaradamsha for the first 12 years? Because the first 8 years of her life is ruled by our mother's karma. The next 8 years is ruled by our past life karmas. We attach to those things. Last 2 years, we start building karmas in this life. This is why they say in astrology, look at a chart of a person over the age of 18. So when you're looking at judging the first 12 years of life, use the moon chart. Use the moon chart because for the first 12 years is ruled by moon cycle. Next 12 is ruled by Mercury cycle, then Venus cycle, then sun cycle. So especially when you're looking at the first 12 years of life, this is really attached to your parent. You're doing everything dependent upon your mother and father, what they're doing. So if you want to just forget the dashas, even transit. No dashas, no transit, nothing. Just use the moon chart as the first year or just use the Dwaradamsha independently and look at the first 12 years from there. So if let's say this person broke a bone, look at the 8th house, and if there's Saturn there with the, let's say Mars, aspect of Mars, or the aspect of Sun, bones and joints. So you know at the 8th year, they had something to do, getting a surgery related to bones. If in the ascendant, there's a malefic in the Dwaradamsha, you can even say that at the age of 13, you got physically injured. See, I go all the way up to 13 sometimes too, but the first 12 years, just use Dwaradamsha to use that one house equals one age. And then you can do, see, here's the thing, like even when I now look at people's relationship timing, I don't use dashas anymore. I don't even use transits. I just use the fact that if this person is between the ages of, let's say 12 and 24, it'll be ruled by Mercury. I'll just look at the 7th from Mercury. I'll look at the birth chart itself and I'll see, is the relationship occurring at 19? Because these are the ages, 18, 19, especially in the West, even 16 becomes when you have that puppy love. Then the main relationship I see is obviously from 22 to 36. That's where I make Venus the ascendant because that's the cycle ruled by Venus. And then I look at the birth chart and I'm just saying, okay, you got a relationship at the age of 29. But if I see then Ketu in the 6th house or 7th house, so you broke up that relationship at the age of 30. And that's it. And so, but Dwaradamsha especially, I start using just the first 12 years and you'll see great results. So that's my analysis. Okay. So thank you so much, guys, for
loving it
and having this mega gathering. And hopefully we can do one more next month sometime.
It would be great.
Yeah. So thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for hosting this, Kapiel.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Bye now.
Take care.